Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. What I want to do today is I want to jump back into our E-Myth series. For those of you that haven't been are new to the program, we've basically been taking one of the number one rated books for small business owners, the E-Myth Revisited, and we've kind of been breaking it down into little chunks and helping to take those concepts and the things they talk about and put them into your world. And this week, I want to go ahead and talk about, we're going to head into the very end of the book where he really gets into what he calls his business development program. And believe it or not, a lot of this, you've already done some of these things, but you've never probably really thought about them in the particular order that he's talking about or in these particular sections. What he talks about is that there's 7 pieces to this business development program. One is your primary aim, your strategic objective, your organizational strategy, your management strategy, your people strategy, your marketing strategy, and your system strategy. Now, obviously, these are the same things that we kind of break down when we start putting together our business plan and when we're thinking about our business. So it's very similar to some of that. It's just he puts a little bit more meat on the bones as far as what each of those items actually are. So we're not going to spend tons of time in each one of them, but I do want to tap on them and just, or I guess that's touch on them, not tap on them, and just, us talk a little bit about why that's important to you. Now, the first one is your primary aim. And this is basically, why are you building the business? And what he's talking about mainly is we need to set what we want our life to be like. So it's not so much the primary aim of the business, but more of what type of life are you building for yourself? For example, most people start a small business on their own because they want that freedom. They want the financial freedom. They want the time freedom. They want something where they want to get away from being somebody else's employee. But you do that because out of an emotional thing. It's like, I can do that better, or I want to have this kind of life. What he's saying is just slow down for a minute and start figuring out, what are your goals? What do you want your life to look like? What kind of, how do you want to spend your days? How much money do you want to make? But basically put some goals around what it is that you want your life to look like as you build that business. Now, granted, in the beginning, it's not going to look like that as you get your business off the ground, but the whole point of it is you're taking your business and then you're going to say, okay, how do I get my business to line up with those goals? All right. So maybe it's, you just want to work 3 days a week instead of 7 days a week, whatever the case may be. What is the mission? What is the purpose? Because you don't want to work 24/7, even though that's what a lot of us end up doing. And it's because we forget to tap into what our life goals are and what we want to achieve, and putting the pieces in place and able to get what it is that we ultimately want. So take some time and try to figure that out and ask yourself, what does that look like? And then it moves into the strategic objective. And basically on your strategic objective, it's how are you going to get there? How are you going to hit that primary aim? Now, it's not a business plan per se, but it is where you will sit back and you will say, okay, how much money am I going to make? How much am I going to do in sales? But more than that, how much are you going to make in profits? Are you going to make profit-wise $5,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $8,000? If you want to make $100,000 a year in profits, then you're looking at about 8,888 or 8,333, something like that. Basically $8,000 a month. Is that what you want to do? What are your goals? What are you pursuing? How are you going to get there? What's it look like? So what's the strategic pieces that have to happen in order for you to hit your life goals? So you want to really start breaking that down. Now, it's a weird order that he goes in with this, which might feel a little weird to some of you when you're reading through it, because he goes from, you set up this business plan or this objective for your life and what you want your life to look like. And then you're going to put together this plan of what it is you're going to achieve in order to make that life happen. And then he kind of jumps right to an organizational strategy, which can be really confusing for a lot of you, because in your mind, you're a solopreneur, you're by yourself, and you're like, I'm going to make an org chart of one, and I'm going to make a box and write me. That's not what he really is talking about. What you want to do is this, and this is how you want to look at your org chart, okay? Your org chart isn't for today. Your org chart is for tomorrow, but those same positions are all being filled by you today. So you might have an org chart of, say, 3 people or of 5 people. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but just know that it's going to be your name in there because you're by yourself. So I don't want you to skip this section just because you are yourself, and you may not ever want to have an employee. You still don't necessarily want to skip this section because you don't know today. That might be what you feel, but as your business grows and expands, you might end up changing your mind, or you might have to look at how you're going to sub out things. So there might be a box on yours that you personally don't fill in the future, but you've made partnerships with some other people where they can kind of do some of that. Now, what you're looking at with an org chart is most of us are familiar with the typical one that we see. You got the boss, and then you got the managers, the assistant managers, and then you've got the department supervisors on down to the people, okay? Kind of like that pyramid thing. That's not necessarily the org chart that you're looking to build. What you're looking for on the org chart is you definitely have a CEO, a chief operating officer, otherwise known as a COO, a chief executive officer, chief operating officer, whatever you want to call it. You get the big kahuna, okay? The main person. And that's going to be always you, at least in your foreseeable future. And, when you build something that's crazy, you might just own it and not have a single say in the building or in the business, in which case you might hire a COO. But in this case, you're going to be the big person. But then you're going to say, okay, when you start expanding your business and your business starts getting bigger, what does that chart need to look like? What's the flow of work? That's the best way to do it. What's the flow of work? So for example, you might have the technicians, the people on the ground level that are there, and then you're going to have shift leaders or crew leaders, or because you're going to have to, as your business grows, you're going to have more than one person. You may have to have a crew helping you out. So for example, a landscaper may start off by themselves, but at some point they hire 2 or 3 individuals to help them out. Now they've got their first crew. But as they continue to grow, they may have to look at adding a second crew. Well, you as the supervisor and the leader of that team, you have to pull yourself out because now you have to organize the 2 different crews. You may decide to put in another person who oversees the crews while you go out there and you drum up the business and you run the company. You're no longer running the individual crews. So can you kind of see how your boxes might look a little different? It might be 7 people. It might be 3 people. I highly do not recommend that you put a box of like 20 different individuals on there, unless you're dreaming super big. But in most cases, you're going to have anywhere between 3 and 7. It depends really what type of business you have and if you have crews. Because if you have different crews and different teams that go out, that team might have, 2 to 3 or 4 individuals working on it and a leader with that. But you might have where people step up in positions. You might, like, for example, I was talking with someone the other day and they have 3-tiered where it's kind of like where someone comes in at entry level and then they move up into medium level and then they get into the 3rd level, which is the highest level, in which case you kind of have a progression of duties and a progression of pay that goes along with that. So they start off as an entry level with the beginning work, and then as their skills improve and as they get better, they go to the next level. And then as their skills continue to improve and whatnot, they go to the next level. So think about your business, and especially the more detailed you are, you might do something like that. You might have, every single person comes in at the entry level, which is where they're doing some of the more menial tasks because they just don't have that skill set. Yeah, because we're always looking for good people. Well, the good people we hire may or may not have the experience they need right away, in which case you hire them because you hire them for the potential, in which case they may start off in the lower levels and then work their way up. By the way, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because people want to feel value and worth in any business that they work. And it's very difficult for small businesses to give people a feeling that there's a way to move up in the organization and a way to earn more money. By you having this org chart, and as you are filling it in with people, it lets people know, hey, here's my clear list of duties for this level, and now I go to this level, and this is my list of duties. So they feel like there's a place for them to grow. And remember, you might fill every single one of those boxes, but here's where this org chart comes in handy. as you grow and as you get bigger, what your goal is to replace your name with someone else's name in the future. So you kind of start off at the bottom, and the first thing you're going to try to get yourself out of is being a technician. You might have a piece on your org chart that is for someone who is a bookkeeper or billing or sales or whatever, and you might hire someone to fill that role. What are you going to do to hire individuals to come in and take over those roles in the org chart? That's kind of why the whole thing is important to have that org chart, because it gives you some focus on what are you doing today, what roles are you filling today, and when you get to that point of feeling the pressure that you need to bring someone aboard, whether it's a permanent employee or even a 1099 type of employee, the org chart allows you to really focus in on the roles that should be replaced and not just you replacing yourself from roles that you should not step out of. All right. Now, part of that org chart that's also very important that you do is that you assign duties. And I talked a little bit about this. You want to make sure that it has a list of duties that goes along with it, a list of expectations of what is in that role, because that's all about the whole systems things. And you're going to hear us, the rest of this episode and into the next one, it's all about the processes and the systems. Bottom line, one of the biggest things that you get out of the E-Myth Revisited is about processes and systems. You probably have noticed that has been a huge theme through all of the episodes that we've done so far. So in your org chart, it all starts with you putting some organization around it, but then you start the first phase of systems and processes, and that is they start off right away having a list of duties and expectations and how to do their job, and that's where the org chart comes in. So the org chart isn't necessarily going to list out the 50 things that they're supposed to do. That's part of your manual, but what it is going to do is say, these are the basic expectations that I'm going to hold you accountable to. So a one page, if you will, of what those expectations are. Plus, it allows people who say, hey, I want to go from level 1 to level 2. What do I need to do? Well, now you can share those list of duties with them, and they can clearly see what skills they need to improve in order to move to the next level. And that's what's really neat about the organizational strategy in order to be able to get there. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this episode here, keep it a little bit shorter, because I want to talk about the next one, which is our management strategy. I want to dive into that one a little bit more on its own, put a little bit more meat on that one, because I think that's a big one that everybody needs to really understand for walking away, because that's going to be really crucial to your business in a lot of different ways. And I'm going to jump into that a little bit more. So if you come back to the next episode, we're going to talk about that, because this is where you really are going to start putting some profit to your bottom line and being able to grow your business, where you can take on more sales even though you can't work more hours. Because I think a lot of people run into that, where they are so busy and they want to take on more business. They know they can take on more business. It's knocking on the door. They just can't let them in. But they know they also can't work more hours. And if that sounds familiar, you definitely don't want to miss the next episode, because that's what we're going to talk about, because that is a killer for a lot of people when they get to a certain area. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If you are interested, the E-Myth Revisited is a fabulous book for every small business owner. I absolutely recommend it. It's one of those books that you read every single year, because you're going to get something different out of it each time, because as your business grows and you move to the next level, it takes on a new meaning for you to be able to go to that next level. So even though if you read through it the first time, not everything grabs you, that's okay. All you need to do is to get one nugget out of it every time you read it, and it will level up your business, and it will increase your profits every single time. I've read this thing 4 times. Every time I read it, I get something new out of it, and some other new piece attaches on. That's the same thing if you listen to anybody who's built a really successful business, making some really good money. They've almost all read the E-Myth and give it credit for some of putting the processes and stuff in place that they needed. And that's kind of the meat of a lot of it. It's all these little pieces. When you read through it, it'll definitely grab you. So there is a link in the show notes for you to go get that as well. It's an $11 book, folks. Come on, you can't hurt yourself on that. It's worth your investment, because you're going to get that back tenfold. And not because I told you to do it. Go get it from your local place. I don't really care. It's not about that. It's about giving you a tool that's going to help you be successful. Now, with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here because I'm rambling and I can't wait to start recording the next episode because I think this is going to be some game changers for some of you guys. Okay. With that, I'm out of here. I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, before you go, if you're looking to learn more about your business numbers, then check out the Know Your Business Numbers course, where we take a deeper dive into the key numbers, the calculations, the reports that will help you take your business to the next level. My mission is to help everyone love their business numbers. Yes, even including those of you that hate math. So much profit is hidden inside of your business numbers, and I want you to create some awesome profits. So check out the link in the show notes or head on over to the knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. Once again, knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. Come join me. Let's go ahead and work on building your profits.